Good old boys.
I'm Mark.
Bog beef.
So, if you've been paying attention to the news at all, you know there was a little contest in Iowa. I think you had a nice little viral tweet about some of the fine people responsible for the tabulating the votes for the caucus, right?
Yeah, so slight recap. So there's this Iowa caucus thing. We'll get into that, and I guess the Iowa Democratic Party contracted a company to do this they were going to do it all through an app. It's a chaotic thing, and so things didn't go well, and people started looking up information on this company that did this, and people, there was a big picture of like the CEO and the dev team, and you look at the dev team and they don't look like devs.
Yeah, they look sociology majors clutching MacBook Pros.
Yeah, they kind of look like people that volunteer at political organizations. Let me find my viral tweet here. Let's see. And this is hilarious because mine I got 1.6 thousand likes, and mine was basically wrong, and yours was the correct one. But I said, whenever you see a software development team and there isn't a guy that looks like George R.R. Martin with nipple-level jeans, that means these aren't coders. These are project managers who call the Philippines twice a month and ask for updates on how the development's going. And that's kind of like, there's probably not a shit ton of experienced developers in Iowa. That's kind of that kind of thing happens a lot. It's pretty normal. Most software like that, it's pretty standard. It's going to take names, and it's not going to be super complicated. But so you look at this picture, and it's all people who are young in terms of this. They all look maybe 40s. So no one looks like when you talk about software development. Like the George R. R. Martin example, people in their 40s, none of those, there's no, in this kind of thing where things are very critical, especially like election software, there's usually a senior developer that that's relied on to get things done, so like having a very equitable experience in terms of like a small startup environment, that doesn't like work, because there has to be someone you can wring their neck and say, you need to come in on Saturday and Sunday and you got to fucking fix this shit. And it's not there. These people, they have great teeth and they have nice haircuts, and these are not people who've spent 16 hours a day at a computer for the past 20 years.
Well, you said that I got it right, but I mean, we pretty much said the same thing, just we focus on different parts of it. I said that you can look at these people and you can tell they're not master criminals.
Okay, so the setup here is that most of our friends and stuff, dissident left people, they're all calling. I'm telling you, this is not like the Iran thing. There's enough case here where you can't just scoff it off. You can't say that's not possible. So most of the distant left people are saying this was rigged. Everybody, let's say that again? This was rigged. That the DNC rigged this. This, it's hard to say. It's not like an election. It's not exactly counting ballots and shit, but it kind of is. That they just fucking rigged it, and it was rigged for Pete Buttigieg. That's like the base level comment. I guess people who are a little bit slicker, they're like, well, that it's rigged to basically make it so like complicated majority stuff, muddle the field, all this kind of shit.
Well, if I was going to characterize the argument that I saw before I disconnected
It's very prevalent right now, by the way.
The argument was that they intentionally made this app fail so they could have chaos, and Bernard Sanders couldn't take a victory lap and be declared the winner, and they could, during that chaos, Mr. Buttigieg could steal votes. Here's why I'm not saying that didn't happen, but it doesn't make sense with the way the DNC's actually trying to rig this. And shout out to Alan Gutierrez. He actually looked into Shadow a little bit, and he said that the app was still in beta when they were trying to use it, and he characterized it like they weren't able to get it in the App Store, and like it's clear just from looking at the way they set it up that they didn't know, that they were way in over their heads. Now you can say, well, that was done on purpose, whatever, that's fine. What I said was that this is the example of the thing we talked about like a couple months ago. It's patronage. It's, hey, why don't we make an app that to protect you from the Russian hackers that we all know is a serious problem? And you can throw a little bit of money my way. I think the main developer is someone who, like her life partner is involved with the Buttigieg campaign. Now, people will say, well, that's proof, it's rigged. Maybe, but it could also just be bog standard patronage. Yeah. And yes, the app was totally unnecessary. It made things more complicated. It made it more likely to fuck up. But I'm not convinced that the DNC wanted it to fuck up this way, because it's attracted a lot of attention that they're probably not going to want. Because, as I said, later on, when we get to the way they've actually rigged the primary, this is evidence that everybody can understand. Our parents can understand how this could be corruption, how this could be rigging an election. It's going to be a lot harder to explain to them superdelegates and contested conventions. This is very easy for anybody to understand. This seems more like somebody fucked up.
Yes. So the background on the company. The company's like 10 people, and it's like four lobbyists, basically, people who are super involved in Democratic Party politics, and then the 5 or 6 developers. None of the developers knew how to code, so they bought. Google makes this like you can buy an off the shelf software that's like you can make software with this without knowing how to code.
Yeah, like plugins and stuff, right? Yeah,
so Google a lot of people have used like Google Forms, stuff like that. And so what's more likely to happen? These were people who probably spent a lot of time licking stamps at the Des Moines Democratic Party office, and the party, this is just graft. They're just hey, we'll just hire our loyal volunteers who I'm sure they don't get. I've volunteered for political parties before, both of them, by the way, and you're doing a bunch of work for free.
No, I'm not suggesting this. I'll ask you because you know more about tech than I do. But so the funny things that we've seen in the last few years, and you and I have talked about it, how Google and Apple, they're all really horny to get people who aren't maybe necessarily interested in working in tech to work in tech.
Yeah.
So could this be an example of, hey, look at it's 3 ladies, and hey, this is a perfect example of how we can lean in.
So normally yes, but here, if you look at them, this is that's just the people who volunteer for political parties. It's NPR donators and stuff. This is so it looked like more like that. It didn't look like there was a legitimate software company and they wanted to lean in. It looked like there was never any attempt.
Right. But I'm saying that, hey, like the Iowa Democratic Party greenlit this, so I was thinking maybe somebody said, hey, look, this is a perfect chance for us to get people involved in tech who aren't I don't know. I'm just making a stretch there, but
Yeah, I don't think so. There's it appears that basically nobody because that happens a lot. And what you would have had is the thing where there's one guy who looks like George R. R. Martin,
yeah.
and then five
Yes,
models.
exactly. That's my big argument against this specific part being intentional. I feel like if they would have wanted to make an app that would steal votes, you would have had somebody who is a legitimate coder. It wouldn't have been in a beta. You would want this to stand up to outside scrutiny, right?
Yes.
I would want to blame it on hackers. I wouldn't want to just say, "Hey, our app fucked up and we couldn't, it wouldn't work." But
Been around people like this, so I know how this went down. This was not a smoky room with this was so we need an app. I'm out of work. We could do an app. My brother, he told us about this software. Yeah, we could do it. And they pull up the website, and the Google website says anyone could do it. This was a bunch of smiling people with that certain energy, and there was no one there that, and why would there have been a software someone with experience in the software industry? There was no one in any of the rooms that experience with that kind of thing. And why? How could there have been? Because if there was anyone, they would have said this is the United States voting voting system. You can't fuck around. You need to have people there that you can get results from.
Caucuses are weird. It's not like the regular primary where you go in and you pull a lever and you vote for somebody. You have this insane system where you have groups of people, and then there are rounds, and then if you can't, it's almost like ranked choice where if you don't have enough votes, then you get to be a free agent and other people can recruit you. So that's already super complicated. And
well, let's pause on that because I'm not totally sure. So I don't know much about it. So from what I've seen about it, it look, what it looks like? It looks like games you play in elementary school. So, and from what I understand, so the people that do this stuff, these are people. This isn't like I'm going to swing by the polls on the way after work. These are all people that are super juiced up about politics.
That is one of the stated benefits of the caucus system over the primary system. Is that so going into this contest, everybody thought Biden was the shit, and he has probably the most name recognition of any of the candidates. He probably had one of the bigger bases just by virtue of being vice president, but his people are not as enthusiastic as Bernard's. And this is one of the benefits of the caucus system where if you could be a lesser known, although it doesn't really apply to Bernard this time, but you could be, and you could make inroads, and you could punch above your weight class and have a legitimate shot. So that's one of the upsides. The downside being also what you said, it's very hard to be involved in this and have your day-to-day concerns.
No, these are political junkies. These are people who work at universities. They're working in the media.
I think they have the important roles in this. But I'm sure there are lots. There like 200,000 people voted, so a lot of them were just like normies. But yeah, it does skew toward that. You can't just go in after work and say, "Hey, I want a Democratic primary ballot," and then punch a button and then leave.
If you're elderly, this looks like what I've seen. This is like I said, it looks like playing tag or something. So it's like they lock the doors in a gymnasium, and you do the Thriller dance, and you make these big groups of people, and it's almost like a weird game or something.
Yeah, and so you have a lot of moving parts. That's why I think I can see a legitimate reason that the app part of the rigging was not intentional. Also, it took them forever to get the results out. And when they got the results out, some of the shit was wrong. And this is one of those situations where what you have to do if you're trying to report the results fairly it sounds very complicated. It involves like it involves a lot of weird math, and I'm sure that to your educated, intelligent person that it's no problem. Like, oh, we got to add these votes to the person who has the highest decimal point after their, and then that means they get X number of state delegates, but that's not the same thing as the other kind of delegates. If you're like a 120 IQ person, I'm sure this is like, you could do this really easily. If you imagine putting a room full of people like me, it would be a miracle if something didn't go terribly wrong, which is,
And by the way, people are shouting and screaming the whole time, and it's total chaos. And like I said, people are moving about the room in these big groups. And there's a lot of, there's crazy. If anyone's ever been to vote, like a tight contest, like people get nuts. So to thread the needle here. Okay, so the best case. I think the best case the best case for the rigging thing happens like this. Okay, so the software team. By the way, so the software team, if you look at it for a second, they do look shady as fuck. They're owned by some company called Acronym. It sounds like Dan Brown writing if Dan Brown was writing like a CIA thing.
Yeah, and by the way, Acronym is. It sounds like to me like they were a company that was invented. One of those rocks that keep tigers away, but for Russian hackers. That by itself is super suspicious. Like, this is just a thing that doesn't need to exist, and the first time it had a job, it fucked it up this badly, and it caused a lot of chaos. That's suspicious.
There's good so if someone said, oh well, the CIA just did all this, there's enough there to where you can't just discount.
I agree.
From what I understand, they have ties to Obama. Obama has ties to CIA, and then where this gets, the only reason why that's pertinent here is because Buttigieg, quote unquote, won the first announcements, and he is the CIA Twitter account has supported him, which there's I know because Ames brings it up all the time in anger. That there's a law somewhere that the CIA is not allowed to have any political opinions, which is absurd. It's what it's for. So there's good evidence that we could be wrong and Shadow wasn't a graft and it was all a ripoff. And these people, the goofy people that aren't coders, yeah, they're the crisis actors. There's a room somewhere in underground Virginia where it was really coded. Okay, but the best case, so the most likely thing is that this was a bonehead graft thing of people who just volunteered a lot, the Democrat Party, and that the rigging was in the reporting.
Yeah, that's possible because that's been a slow trickle, and Buttigieg from the beginning said, "Hey, I won."
They stopped counting at 65% or whatever, to where Buttigieg had a huge lead. They didn't count the counties where all the colleges were, basically, and they said, and there was an announcement well, we got a long way to go, but Buttigieg won.
But this is one of those things where, okay, how much does that matter to regular people? Okay,
could be a lot if that's what hit the newspaper.
Right, but this is ongoing for now the New York Times is saying that Sanders won.
Your grandma in Des Moines, she might have just read the newspaper that morning and said Buttigieg won.
Yeah, but she's going to see that that's not a big part of this. They're keeping this in the news cycle, so it's going to, unless they just completely step on the story, which I guess is possible, eventually it's going to say, okay, well, actually Sanders won. And this comes around to the stamp that I put on the whole thing, which is, why bother? First of all, it was going to be a super close race. Buttigieg and Sanders were going to be within a couple percentage points of each other. The media could have just said, you know what, this was a virtual tie in Iowa. It was like the opposite of what they did in 2016. Hillary Clinton wins Iowa, and she won by a baseball team worth of votes. It was a tie, but the media spun that as, well, she won. And then when he won New Hampshire, it was like, oh, they've won a game apiece. So why bother to cause this chaos when you could just do that, especially because, okay, he's going to win New Hampshire, probably going to win it big.
So this is one of these heat check moments where I want to, I think the way to go is be low information. The way to the way to have any kind of insight in this kind of shit is to zoom out and not be involved in the daily cycle, because I think very soon no one's going to remember this. And we're just going to be on to the next thing. There's 50 states. This doesn't really matter. It's fucking Iowa. This will matter to like people who do follow it closely. There's going to be who drops out and all this kind of shit. But it's points like this where I'm like, I need to tune out and just focus on the big picture. Because if you scroll back and look at like a lot of the big picture predictions, they're holding pretty good. A lot of people said Bernie was going to get screwed out of this thing. Even Trump. But maybe I don't know if we should talk about that. But right now, if you're a Bernie fan, you want to enjoy basically the entire Republican Party rooting for him.
Yeah, their thoughts and prayers are with Bernard.
Yeah. Trump's a big Bernie guy right now. I talked about it today. Someone said this on one of my tweets, or whatever. I can't remember who it was, but they had a great point that when Trump does it, it sounds really legit, because I think there was a point in the 2016 where he did want Bernie to win. And I think basically it goes like this, that people don't remember it very much, but there was a point where it seemed like Trump could really win. And soon after he did win, where it was apparent that he was having second thoughts about being the president of the United States.
Yeah.
So for someone like Bernie or whatever, he's a senator, now he's the president. This is just moving up. For Trump, I think he was asking. I think there was, when he first won, there was some questions. I think he was thinking, number one, like, how am I going to get rich off this? Because he was making a lot of money not doing this. And second off, he's like, I'm going to lose a ton of freedom. Like, I have a very unique life. I can kind of do whatever the hell I want. I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. He hadn't really got into the pomp and the being the president yet. He didn't want to be president.
Yeah, there was one of those, the myriad of books that were, inside the Trump campaign. One of them said that he didn't think he was going to win. He didn't really want to be president, but the night that he won, it took him like an hour or something to convince himself that, this is going to be awesome. Now that does sound like Trump to me. I can totally believe that.
I mean, if you look at who he was, so it's not like at that point. So now it's obvious he's figured out a lot of hustles, a lot of ways to make money being the president. But at that point, it didn't look like that was going to be possible. And it looked like this was going to be a lifestyle downgrade for him.
Well, I think he's like I don't want to say lazy, but like he I don't think he was big on getting up early and doing the boring shit that the president has to do.
Yeah. This was a bummer.
Yeah, Trump's.
Well, maybe we connect it here. So, by the way, so you can go to search Real Donald on Twitter, search Real Donald Trump, Bernie rigged. You're going to see tons of posts, especially going back to 2016 and 2017. And often, I think he mentioned this gentleman, Tom Perez.
Yeah, who Tom Perez is the chairman of the Democratic Party. Most people listening know the story, but if you don't, Keith Ellison ran for party chair after Hillary blew the election, and Obama called Perez and said, we need you to get in here and keep Bernard's guy out. We don't want them to get control of the party." Now, if you remember the mood right after she lost, there was a brief moment where even some of the, not the most diehard I'm with her people and ghouls, but like some of the people in the Democrat Party are like, maybe we fucked up, maybe we need to go in a different direction. And there was a feeling like, Ellison could become chair and then that could happen.
The party should take a listen to working class people.
Yeah. But they said no, and Perez came in, and now I said in 2017, before you graced us with your presence on Twitter, I said, as long as Tom Perez is chairman of DNC, Sanders or anyone like him, they will not be the nominee. It's impossible. And that is kind of wraps back around to my thing about why bother with the shit that we're talking about in Iowa, because they already rigged the primary. They did it like years ago. He's the commissioner of the NFL. He doesn't need to knock the ball out of Tom Brady's hands. He can change the rules, and they did change the rules to make sure that the outcome is what they want. And this is something that we talked about with Amy 3 weeks ago, that I don't think a lot of people know this, even people who pay close attention. So, in order to win the nomination, you have to win the nomination on the first ballot, you have to get 50% of the delegates plus one. You have to get a majority, not a plurality, a majority. If you don't, if no one gets that, it goes to a second ballot. And in that case, superdelegates get to weigh in. And then I don't know exactly how it works, but I think the delegates for the candidates will be released. So let's say Buttigieg and Warren get between them, they have enough that they could throw them to Biden or vice versa. Plus, superdelegates can tip the scale. So, if everybody in the party who's not Bernard Sanders has a tacit agreement to make sure that Bernard Sanders does not get the nomination, he's not going to get it. Because there's no way he's going to get 50% plus one.
This is one of the reasons why I don't like people calling for third parties.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if anyone's ever checked out these European countries where they have multiple parties. Basically, no one. It's people need to be starving to get any radical candidates elected, because there's that happens at the end of whenever you need to form a government. It's
runoffs and stuff like that. Yeah.
Everyone always teams up against the radical. So that may be now. Bernie's not quite the radical that he was in 2016. That's a weird element, and they're not believing that.
Before we move on to that, I want to just throw in.
Let's hang on this rule stuff a second. So, to be clear, the Democratic Party is a private organization. They could just make up whatever the hell rules they want.
A judge said that. A judge said they're allowed to cheat if they want to.
Yeah, Dan Carlin taught me that. I wish he would come back to talking about politics. But yeah. So I know a lot of people that know a lot of the ins and outs of politics, and none of them have been able to explain to me this process of what happens with the 50%. There's under 50%. Is that what happened in what was it, 68 or whatever?
No, it's been a long time. So the primary system as we know it didn't exist back then. Especially in 68. Now, I don't know enough about this to say anything decisively, but essentially back then it was a free for all. You would go to the convention, and there would be people they were like their version of superdelegates, and they were the ones who decided. And who wins the primary they didn't give you automatic points. That just was like a measure to tell these guys in the smoky back room, well, this guy has a better shot. And this became a huge deal because, Robert F. Kennedy in 68 swooped in out of nowhere and basically was going to steal the nomination from people who had already been campaigning for a while. So this primary system is pretty new, 50 years, 40, 50 years. But it was changed after 2016 in two ways. They got rid of the winner-take-all states completely. So now it's proportional, and then there's some weird fucking rules about if you get less than 15%, you don't get blah, blah, blah. But,
The Ross Perot rule.
yeah, the meat of this is it was designed from the ground up to make sure that there is never going to be a situation where someone like Sanders could get in on the first ballot without the party elites having a say in it. Now, if you ran this election fairly the way it's supposed to go, you could say, well, hey, he might not be able to do that, but Warren, he and Warren could team up and pull their delegates together. And there were some retards saying that, like, current affairs, whatever. That kind of denies the reality of what's happening, which is that it's everybody against Sanders.
If Bernard is if he's the real deal, if he's not a cynical politician, he actually is going out for the middle, for the working class, then all that's impossible. And I think that what I meant with the 68 stuff is, and the reason why no one can tell you precisely the rules is because they probably don't exist, and it's going to be another free for all, and there's going to be a fast election cycle. They're going to say, "Oh, some weird shit happened," and
yeah, if nobody gets a majority of the delegates, then it will go to this thing where they can choose who they want to be the nominee, and that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
and it doesn't. What the polls say about who's more popular doesn't matter.
Yes. Which, by the way, I've got a small little bit here. I was thinking about it today. So, in terms of popularity, whatever, Biden, we're online, and no one online likes Biden. He polls really well. But people who aren't online, so I've got a little theory here, and so the basic theory is that Biden will name a VP before the primary is over, which would be weird. And
it happened last time. Cruz did that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but it was like a desperation move.
Yeah, well, this is going to get desperate, and I think it's going to be someone like Stacey Abrams,
mm-hmm.
and for a multitude of reasons, but it's basically, here's the theory. So whenever this comes up, people are like, well, vice presidents, they don't really affect anything. True, in history. However, this is a new moment in history, and these boomers that all the people, most of the people running are over 70, right?
Bernard and Biden and Trump are all over 70.
Yeah, Bernie's 82, Biden's 77. Reagan was ancient when he ran at 69. We have this baby boom generation, and it's not weird that you would see all these old people, because they're the boomers. There's a whole bunch of them, and so they're there. This is a unique situation that we have these people that are really old running. And in the past, VP, I don't think mattered that much, because the actuarial tables that could Reagan have passed away from old age in office? I guess pretty unlikely. It's not terribly unlikely with all these boomers running. A Bernie would be 86 in his second term, whatever.
Yeah, he's 78 now. So
now, I think where you really would see this would be Biden, because Biden's got this big thing of he wants to be this. He talks about it sometimes. He wants to be this heroic figure of passing on America to POC, basically. And
yeah, I
think it would be on brand for him. I think he could do it very well. He could pick an exciting young person like Stacey Abrams, and then things would get complicated.
Yeah, complicated is a nice way of putting it. That would be a perfect. That would be you should give the campaign a call, because that would be the perfect match for him, because she has the same economic politics that he does, and yeah, it would be that would pretty much formalize the direction of the Democratic Party if they did that.
So imagine this. Imagine we're a week out from Super Tuesday, 7 days till Super Tuesday in this scenario. Biden brings Stacey Abrams on network TV. They pay their best speech writers. She delivers a bring down the house speech like Obama's in was it 2004 or whatever?
Yeah.
So she brings down the house, and okay, so just that happens. That's nice, but imagine this happens, and imagine the same day that Bernie is accused of a Me Too. And not like the old, I've been predicting this, and the other one that happened, it was a Me Too, and the journalist said that, but I don't think it's gonna be like that. Here's what I think. I think a week before the election, there's gonna be a woman that said there was a weird incident with just her and Bernie in the room, like in the early 80s, something like that.
I think grabbed her butt. Yeah.
Or I don't even think it would be like that. I think there was weird comments. I felt uncomfortable. I smell alcohol in his breath, something like this.
All right.
There won't be time there won't be time to process this. Those two things happen. If you listen to this like, oh, that's a crazy conspiracy. There's big fucking stakes here, y'all. If you really believe in Bernie, if you really believe that he's wants to change things, you don't think that you gotta believe that they're gonna do everything, and
well, they got Bloomberg in, and he's just spending money hand over fist.
Yeah, Mike, I don't know what he's doing, but I trust Michael Tracy a lot, and Michael Tracy said don't underestimate Bloomberg. He's not an idiot, and whatever he's doing is not just like wasteful. That he's up to something slick.
He got into the next debate in a couple days, whenever it is. I haven't watched any of them, and I'm not gonna, but he's going to be in the next one.
Did you see his? We should be working for him. He's got a website. He's hiring anyone $6,000 a week to work for his campaign.
Jesus Christ! Yeah. My mother would disown me if I took money from Bloomberg. She didn't know who Michael Bloomberg was a year ago, probably. But after the 2A stuff, she knows who he is now.
Yeah.
And she's got some very strong opinions about him.
Yeah.
It's funny. I never heard normal people around me ever talk about Bloomberg, ever in my life. And then he is pretty much Satan incarnate now. It's
yeah, that's a weird move. Like he went all in on the 2A stuff, which that I think that's
we mean Second Amendment in Virginia. The gun laws, it's called the 2A movement. It's a big thing.
He's made it like a signature issue that like he does like he's like what people think George Soros does. He like wants to be that for anti-guns. Like he just like funds it independently, but that's kind of complicating his move if he wants to be this big spoiler guy, because that's anyways. So imagine those things happen. Imagine who is I just gave it away. Who's Bernard's biggest supporters? Like his big name, his speech people and shit. It's AOC. It's the squad. You're gonna put them in an uncomfortable spot if those events happened, like I said they might. They're gonna happen.
I don't know. Maybe, but at this point, I mean, this is a good segue, because that might have been a problem for them a year ago, but kind of their movement now too, right?
Yeah.
Another thing I posted about before, I don't know, a couple days ago, the Bernard of 2016 was great. I loved him. were people that I knew in my life who were lifelong Republicans, very conservative people, who sent him money. Never donated to a political candidate ever, and they sent him money because of what he said about wages and banks, especially what he said about banks. Because poor people fucking hate banks and bankers. When I was at the poll to vote in 2016, I overheard someone in front of me tell another person they would have voted for Bernard Sanders. Since he wasn't the candidate, they voted for Trump instead. That's not going to happen in 2020. I'm not completely, but he's not going to have that crossover appeal at the same level that he did in 2016. And part of that is because Trump, changed the game by kind of changing some of the rhetoric of the Republican Party. But frankly, a lot of it is because of the campaign that Sanders is running. And he made a choice, I think, to change I'm not saying he changed his ideology, but he changed his campaign. What's the headline? 2016's headline issue was, Wall Street. It was he couldn't go 5 minutes without talking about breaking up the banks and $15 minimum wage. Now, as I said, I haven't listened to the debates. I only see what I see on the news and in the newspaper and shit like that. I'm trying to be a normie about this subject. When's the last time you heard anybody talk about minimum wage, fight for 15? Now, I've heard it rolled into the Green New Deal, but I haven't heard anything about the wages by themselves. If you go on his website and you look up his issues for 2020, number one issue, immigration. Now, famously, he got in trouble last election cycle for saying that open borders was some coke libertarian bullshit.
He said the obvious thing that everyone knows about how it affects wages,
right?
And he stuck to it.
Yeah, and he's never been for deporting people and stuff. He's always been what we would call squishy on immigration. But he said that he's like, look, it's not good for the labor market. This is his number one issue now. If you go by what he wants you to see when you go to his website, the first thing he wants you to know is he's going to do a moratorium on deportations. He's going to get rid of ICE,
tear up all the executive orders.
Yeah, he's gonna undo all the executive orders. That, okay, whatever. But then the last thing on the first part of his platform is we're going to welcome refugees and people seeking asylum, including those displaced by climate change.
Yeah, he said they get free college and healthcare and stuff, which even the super lib countries, like, because he used to his 2016 platform, it sounded like a Canadian leftist.
In 2016, he said that he wanted to allow people to I want to say he said to buy their way into the programs.
Yeah, like Canada.
Right. I don't think he ever said we're just going to give it to him straight. But to be fair, I'm not saying he even changed his policy positions, because he just didn't talk about this a lot in 2016 for good reason. And this is kind of what I'm getting at. He could have the same. I don't think he does have the same positions that he did last time. I think he has changed some of them, but he's definitely changed.
His focus.
Yeah, well, not just focus. His pitch. Now, if I was trying to pitch you to vote for Bernard Sanders, I would talk about 2016. I would talk about wages, banks, healthcare, because we've talked about this. Obamacare fucking sucks for people who are like lower middle class or the upper bounds of working class. It's terrible. We would talk about that. What I would not talk to you about was that I was going to give everybody Arabs on a raft universal health care and let them go to college on the government's dime. I wouldn't pitch you that. He is doing that. Like he actively said this in an interview. He said, "Hey, look, I know I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get people, right wingers, smearing me for saying this, but this is how it is."
It's weird. So I'll try to defend him here.
I don't think it's weird at all. He's trying to win the Democratic primary. That's what he's trying to do.
Well, yeah, but that's weird. Okay, so
Yeah.
First off, now if this was any other politician in the world, then we would just say, well, come on, it's red meat, but you're gonna snap to the center in the general. Just got to get through the primary. He needs to snap to the center for the general. With Bernie's Mr. Authenticity, that would be weird. I wouldn't hold it against him, by the way. I think he's hampered a bit by his Jesus image, because
more than a bit.
He politician.
He's pragmatic. He's not an idiot.
Yeah, you don't want Jesus to be your politician. You want a dirty son of a bitch who's gonna get things done for you. Okay, so there's that.
Yeah.
There's now the ground has changed now, just specifically on immigration. So I think the easiest way to let him off here is that there's no one he could hire for his campaign. There's no one possible that you could hire that's would have other jobs outside past this campaign or whatever. That could like do an interview on like TYT or something and say, yes, the Sanders campaign, we're not for open borders. You can't say that anymore. People, you can say that if you're a normie. You can say that. Bernie could say that, by the way. Bernie could say that, but the people who work for him couldn't, because they need a career in the future. By the way, do you know, like, here's why I'm cutting the slack on this, because it's hard for Republicans to hire people willing to say that. Do you know that?
Right, but he doesn't have to say anything about it at all. He didn't last time.
I know. Well, donors are very big on this, and this is why, like, there's a bunch of meme accounts run by right wingers attacking the president, and they all run because Trump says shit like this all the time. Trump says, like, we want more immigrants, and there's one of the best ones is this. This is run by like MAGA people, and like the account's called "Where's the Wall, You Fat Retard."
I'm sorry.
And like their big meme joke is that Trump, whenever anything about immigration comes up, Trump just tells the MAGA people, "I'm monitoring the situation."
Yeah.
It sounds so. He's done like 2 or 3 actions in the past like 6 months. There's more that he's done in the past 3 years. Because remember, if you are a leftist, you read Marx a little bit. You know that cheap labor is the name of the game. It's very, 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 very hard to vote against to pull lever to make your labor value worth more. That means including Republicans. By the way, if there's some big realignment or whatever, you're not going to just be able to go to a random Republican and say, "Hey, I'd just like to ease down the immigration a little bit." It's not going to happen. Cheap labor is what everybody with capital wants.
Well, here's where you can come in the part where you can reward your friends and punish your enemies, which is you could say, "Hey, I want a lot more H-1Bs. I want to bring in all these people who have college educations, and we want to get that flood the country with them, and we can get those wages down." And he could say, "I'm going to protect the people in the Rust Belt who don't have those educations. Protect you from the kind of skilled and unskilled laborers that want to get in here." And that's kind of basically the opposite of what the Democratic Party is going to want to do.
Yeah, well,
so I mean, you can't graph it just anti-immigration, pro-immigration, because that's not how it's going to be. When the realignment happens, it's going to be what kind of immigration and how much.
Yeah,
that's what I think anyway.
Yeah, the big dark lords of the dissident right, Peter Thiel and Moldbug, these are both people that, like, they would be richer if there was more H-1Bs.
Yeah,
that's more cash. Like that's cash money in their pocket. Both those guys, they own software companies.
So we need to cut Bernard slack because, like you said, this is a new party. He needs troops, and this is a sin for them now.
So here, the best answer on this, I think, is that this isn't necessarily Bernard's fault. Where this happened was the last 4 years. There's been a narrative blitzkrieg on this. You know all that stuff about the H-1Bs. No one talks about that. What we talk about is people dying and people in cages and murder. I saw a thing today that said so many immigrants were murdered after they were sent back to their countries. And are you for or against the murder? Like, you know, we can't. That's not a democratic politics kind of thing. We can't have a discussion on that. And that's kind of happened under his feet. Okay, so also hat tipped here to you know, no bullshit. You know, I must admit that I don't really know what she's up to, but so Tulsi is running Bernie's 2016 campaign.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I like her.
She's more patriotic. Like she's running the version of that campaign you would have gotten in like 2000. To be fair, like her campaign is very. It sounds like I'm trolling, but she has the most pro-American platform of any of the Democratic candidates by far. Like, if you go look at her website and just look at how it's laid out and what she's saying.
Yeah, she uses those words like American families and stuff like that a lot.
It's just going to be a Republican.
Yeah,
before it's all over with.
So I mean, like if we had to pick which campaign it'll be like, I
Yes,
think Tulsi's is
absolutely.
way better than Bernie Sanders right now.
100%.
However, you know, I wasted hours and hours talking about that. What matters is the coalitions, right? And so she doesn't have a coalition. Bernie Sanders has a coalition, and if he has a possibility, it could happen of him creating a 60% plus coalition, but he'd have to change.
No, you're
If
not
there
now.
was a swing into the center and all that kind of stuff.
That's my exact
over.
point. That's my exact point. That is over. When he made this turn, okay, just to be more specific. So, like I said, he rolled almost all of his economic stuff into the Green New Deal. I get why you would do that, because you're saying, hey, I'm gonna make a compromise with the rad libs or whatever, and we're gonna work to get pull together, and they'll get some of what they want, and I'll get some of what I want. That's true. Like that, he could become president and pass a Green New Deal. That's not going to be this a working class spanning movement that's going to get you a electoral landslide. It's not going to happen. That's done with. The immigration stuff by itself would have been enough, but he in one of the interviews he promised that we're going to have Medicare for all, and I'm going to guarantee that you'll be able to have transgender surgery with it. You wouldn't advertise that if you were aiming to get you could argue his 2016 campaign was aimed at, I'm going to look outside the Democratic Party to independents, even some Republicans, and I'm going to form a coalition so big that these people who are in my party who are obstructing me won't be able to stop me. You'll have to go along with what I'm going to do. I'm going to take some of theirs. I'm going to take the labor vote that used to be part of our party, and I'm going to make it mine, and we're going to shove it down your throat, Roosevelt style. 2020, he's not doing that. He's doing the opposite. He's given up a portion of that to win the primary, and he's making some compromises. He's doing kind of what Clinton said she was going to do. He's giving up some of them Rust Belt votes to get some of those suburban votes. I'm not saying he's changing who he is or what he would do, but he's changing his platform, and the platform is what matters. That's what people are going to hear. Why are these people who went from Obama to Trump? Why are they going to go for Sanders?
Did you see Benjamin Studebaker's article on his blog today or yesterday? We don't even have to talk about it. We can just read the headline. I read it. It's good, but people should check it out. And his and Amy's podcast, What's Left. Iowa shows that Sanders' gains in cities will have a cost in the countryside.
Yeah, and he can pivot. And I'm not saying he can't win the nomination and win the presidency. He could. And here's why. And you can say, well, so what? If he gets in office, he gets power. Oh, okay, does he? Because once he gets in power, and his coalition is built off of the Squad and everybody in grad school who had big ideas, and a smattering of the old Labor Democratic Party. He's going to rely on people who are going to be hostile to the good things that he wants to do. They're not going to let him fuck around with the banks. They're not going to let him necessarily get us the minimum wage increases we want. You know what they will let him get? They will let him do whatever the fuck he wants when it comes to ICE. They will let him open the borders wide open. They'll let him get a version of healthcare reform that they'll call Medicare for all. And I'm sure they'll do that. They would love to do that. But it's not going to be the things that we wanted for 2016. When I say we, I mean me and you. I'm not speaking for anybody else.
Yeah.
Because frankly, this is what happened. It's not that he's sold people out. He's changed the platform so that it's not really for me anymore.
Quoting Mr. Studebaker, I'm fond of saying that there are three kinds of places that American politicians need to win: cities, college towns, and the countryside. In 2016, that's very good. I don't know if the 2A thing and the Iowa thing, the only maps that really told stories were maps that said what was a city, what was rural, and what was a college town. And now college town is a serious deal. Mm-hmm. And that 2A thing, the 2A maps, you see rural, city, and then you see these college towns.
Little islands, yeah.
In 2016, the Sanders campaign did very well in the countryside and college towns, but lost to Clinton in the cities. In 2020, the campaign has tried to reach Clinton voters in the cities. I've long feared this might come at a cost to Sanders' appeal in the countryside. He's saying the same thing you said. Mm. You should be teaching at Oxford.
Yeah, it would be great. So,
well, okay. But what's really happened is that doing the work, hasn't been within. Politics really does happen. With these narratives, with these professors, with these journalists, it's a whole different world about the way you can talk about things than it was in 2016. You could talk about immigration in 2016. You can't talk about it anymore. That's from these doing the work. That's from the Noah Berlatskys out there. It's real. So it's not Sanders' fault. The other defense of Sanders is, okay, if that's true, why are they fighting him tooth and nail?
Well, I mean, they would rather not have to make any concessions. They'd rather just have their own people in charge.
Well, the model you gave, there's no concessions there. Then he's just a marionette for them.
Well, no. I'm not saying that. If for nothing else, if Sanders became president, there would be shakeups in the party. There were again, the thing we talked about before, patronage networks would change. AOC and Ilhan Omar, they might be very popular with this crowd, but they're not the people who are in charge of the party yet. So that by itself would be enough for them to not want him to win. But I mean, I'm not saying this is going to be the bitter pill. I'm not saying that he would be totally unable to do anything. I'm saying he would only be able to do things that would help a certain part of his coalition. And here's the part that's you're not going to like to hear. If Sanders won the nomination and won the presidency, and he didn't do it with a huge, if my cousin and the guys at work are not going to vote for him, you're going to have a situation where all of these people online who are very passionate about Medicare for all, etc., they're going to have to face up to the different material needs of theirs versus the people that they're speaking for. Essentially, this will be moving from critiquing the Democratic Party from the outside to your people, the people you support, will have power. And then you're going to have to admit, well, I guess we can't do this one thing for you. But this is not going to make the cut. And when you have a coalition that is supposed to be, laborers, and there was a lot of crowing after Iowa about how many of these very poor immigrant caucus goers were for Sanders. So they're part of his coalition, but also highly educated college students. Well, the groups don't necessarily want all the same things, right?
Yeah, they want separate. I mean, you remember in 2016 there was a good case you could make that Hillary could have definitely passed a college debt reform.
Yeah, sure. She
could have. I think she could have got it done.
Oh, I know she could have. It's going to happen.
But I mean in a way that the 2016 Bernie winning probably wouldn't have been able to like, get the House whip and the Senate whip and get all the votes in line to make that happen. I can't remember if Hillary promised that, but she promised it in a way
she made moves towards it. She talked about it. She was against his plan to offer free college, but she was the first one the first presidential candidate I remember who was talking about, hey, we really need to forgive student debt.
It wasn't an Uncle Free stuff either. It was a here's a tough nuts version, and you're gonna have to do this and that. But I could really get this signed. And that was part of the class warfare thing, was that Bernie says, well, anyone can go to college for free. Okay, that's great, universal. Hillary's like, hey, if you owe $100,000 to Bryn Mawr, I can help you out. Those are different propositions.
Yes.
And the Hillary one was means tested and all this kind of shit. And okay.
Let me cut through the bullshit and tell you what the Democratic Party is going to stand for going forward, in my opinion. You're going to have a coalition between the professional class and with lumpen proletariats, people who have nothing and people who have a whole lot. And that's why you're going to see things like college student debt is going to be a huge issue. And it is a huge issue. I'm not saying it's not, but if you look at who holds the debt, just go look it up. Look up the class of the people who hold the most student debt. It's not the working class. It's immigration really matters to the working class, the lower middle classes. The professional class is fine with immigration because they're not competing with those people. And as you have pointed out many, many times, they get to enjoy the cheap services in the city that you have when you have a huge supply of cheap immigrant labor. Basically, servants in the gig economy. You can have all the fun of having a servant without actually having one. The immigration thing is huge for a lot of working class people. Now, not all the working class, because there are other considerations, and that's where identity politics comes in. We don't have to go over that again, right? We know the deal with that.
The deal with working class natives. So I'll scoop your ice cream, but I want like $18 an hour. Okay, so you're not going to get to eat out of ice cream very much. If someone from Guatemala does it, then they're going to go pick that shit up and bring it to you. And
this isn't purely white working class, which is what everybody goes to. The black working class doesn't like it either. However, the black working class will vote for the Democratic Party because
there's unique experience with American history.
I think that doesn't give them credit. Like the Democratic Party goes after their vote and makes promises to them and really doesn't keep them. But I mean, they're being marketed to. Like it's not just we have loyalty because of something that happened 50 years ago. Like the Democratic Party works to say we're going to make life better for you specifically. That's how politics works.
Trump says that for us. You don't give very much. But by the way,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That kind of puts me on blast because I remember when Hillary was running against Trump. By the way, this is the way I always feel whenever there's two politicians running for office. I never want like I'm never like I don't want to be so I'm too theory brained here to where there's never going to be a situation where it's like I love party A and party B sucks because party B candidate B is the devil. Well, sorry, I don't like that. So that's like a sectarian mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what you really get is you don't get anything. What you want is you want both people making promises to you, right? And even if they're hollow, because if Hillary is offering me nothing, then Trump can give me nothing plus a piece of pepperoni.
Exactly.
And they know I'm gonna have to vote for him. And
yep.
I remember we were talking at the time. I was so pissed off. I said, why won't she just fucking lie to me? Just lie to me. Just lie to me and tell me you're gonna give me something. She wouldn't do it. Remember, Bill said, just send me to the South. And you know it would have worked because, it doesn't matter what Hillary's plan was. Bill is a charismatic dude. And if you put him around Southern people, he's got a way of talking. He's a good old boy. He's a giant pedo. I'm not defending him. But he's got the gift of gab. And it would have helped. I don't know if it would have helped her campaign because of larger considerations. But I was like, just lie to me. Just fucking lie to me. I'd be.
She said she didn't want our vote.
Yeah.
She not just didn't care. She said, I don't fucking want you. You're in the basket of deplorables. Yuck.
That really dicks. And see, that really doesn't help me because now Trump doesn't have to do shit for me.
But that's, we talked about that on the Patriots thing. You don't want the coalition to be too big because then you can't give as much to your loyal followers unless you're like trying to make big moves like Roosevelt did and Sanders wanted to do in 2016.
So I don't know.
It's a game of inches with these little coalitions.
It's not the real battle is not with Bernie. I mean, so there is a real battle with Bernie, but the material conditions that he inherits for these campaigns, that's me and you guys, y'all. It really matters.
I'm going to do something genuine that's genuinely contrarian. Give an idea of how I made fun of him earlier. Nathan J. Robinson in Current Affairs had a pretty famous spat with our previous guest, Amy Therese, about Warren. And basically their position was, hey, look, she's not as good as Bernard, but she'll get us, 80% of what we want. You guys should go easy on her,
yeah.
Right? All right. He's not entirely wrong about that. Warren will give a lot of people some of what they want. She'll probably get them student debt relief.
Yeah,
she can probably get them. I'm not convinced that.
Yeah, but
okay.
That guy's a snake. He's misrepresenting the thing. He claims that he's a communist revolutionary.
Yeah, no, he's Willy Wonka. I get it. I'm not saying that he's smart.
No, you're doing a thing. It's clever. Yeah. So in other words, he's telling the truthful lie there at that point.
It's not
and he's backed off on that. By the way, did you see that?
Right, because that moment's over now. But this is what disruptive candidates do. He's saying, look, hey, we should really think about what we're in this for. What are we going to get? Well, Warren can get us, let's say, the same healthcare plan that Bernard could get, which is what might be true with the coalition that he would win with. Like he's not going to get what he could have gotten in 2016. She can get you the student debt reform. Those two things right there, they would take care of a lot of the material concerns of a big part of the people who support him. And this is the danger if you're Bernard, and this is the danger for everybody in the coalition that share that class position or whatever you want to call it. The argument against him was, well, Warren's in this to spoil him, etc., etc. All true, absolutely. But the gist of what he's saying it's not entirely wrong. Maybe not from Warren, but you could get 80% of what you want if you give up part of it. And the funny thing is, I think you kind of already did with the 2020 Sanders campaign.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think the reason why Sanders' campaign is the way it is because of people who own media outlets like him.
Yeah.
They bragged about it. They used to brag. They said, we pushed Bernie to the left.
If Bernard wins the nomination and then he won the presidency and he took power and he had, less than 60 senators or whatever, it's going to put a lot of people in an awkward position because it's going to be like what happened to us with Obama in 2008. We're going to be in the same position where you have to confront what you really need from a candidate. You're going to have to confront.
That's good.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, just thinking of only in the 2020. We're not talking about previous generations. Just in our generation. If I said to you, "Can you imagine accruing fame?" You can imagine that, right? Like yourself.
Yeah.
You can imagine what it would be like. How would you could imagine how you could get fame and what it would be like, right?
Mm-hmm.
How would you get glory?
Yeah, we talk about this. It doesn't exist, and the left is kind of against it.
I mean, it didn't go anywhere. It's still a thing, but in the modern mind, it means nothing, right? It's like a joke. It's almost an archaic concept, but that's not true. It still exists. It just has a different name.
Clout.
Not just clout, but like, let's say, activist is such a crude word, but somebody who devoted their life to making things better for other people.
Yeah, but okay. We were talking to our friend Dre about who's the greatest Canadian of all time. People vote for the guy who not who had a great press corps, not who had great teeth and say babies. It was the dude who actually got it done.
Okay.
Okay. What if Bernie enters the general and he's just squishy?
What do you mean? Like
He's at town halls and there's a guy with a trucker hat on that tells him about his wages. And all Bernie has to be there is a bit squishy, and it could have serious consequences.
Yeah.
He's talking all this rad lib shit right now. He's surrounded by rad libs. The entire you have to talk like a rad lib, or we both have anonymous accounts on Twitter, and you're not going to see my face because I think I get fired if I say things that are that I would like Bernie to say. It's real, but Bernie, all he would have to do is be a little bit squishy in the general, and we could move the dialectic.
Maybe. I don't know. I know what happens if he gets rat fucked and he doesn't get the nomination, but he got the most votes. Nothing changes. We go back to 2017. We have all these. We don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
You can just say we can do, but we can do both thing. I'm not keep harping on this, but it's so important.
It's super important.
Okay, after Iowa, I saw just this flurry of these tweets and these articles about how, like, hey, you know what? This caucus full of Somali immigrants, they all loved Bernard Sanders. Like that's the one they support. All the people who say they don't like him, that's wrong. We're going to debunk this. Yeah, immigrants love Bernard. Actually, furries love Bernard. Everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're gonna play that game, and then Biden's
can't fucking win that way. I mean, you literally can win the Democratic primary that way, maybe, but you can't you can't accomplish the things you want to accomplish, because as soon as you buy into that framework, the second that you do that, you give up on the universalist ideas that were the core of what he said. And he can still say those things, but it doesn't matter if he's saying that on one hand and then, Trump
By the
has an
way,
attack ad where he...
by the way, that's gonna. Did you notice that he's an old white guy? If his campaign really goes all in, really tries to stick to the id poll stuff, he's been and remember he's been squishy about this in a good way. They'll ask him stuff about id poll, and I know that when he's giving a prepared speech, prepared to him by staff and stuff, he's going to give you a rad lib answer right now, and that sucks ass. But whenever he's in conversations and things, and they ask him about this, I'm telling you, he gets squishy. He can sometimes go back to being the dude that he was the entire rest of his career, and that's all it really takes. Anyways, by the way, so if his campaign actually did embrace identity politics, well, Biden's going to roll up with Stacey Abrams, who has written speeches and articles talking about every in and out of how to kick ass at identity politics, and she will whoop his ass and say, "What are you doing?" Like if you're a big id poll person, I've said this before. There's big controversies if there's a speaking panel at an anime convention that's led by a white male. So you're going to be this person that's all in on id poll, and you're going to let this white guy take the most important job in the world. It's not going to work out. And like I said, I think if you think about it, you can think of this. All he's got to do is be a little squishy. That's it. I want squishy.
I don't even worry about like the id poll stuff for the Democratic primary, because like I don't think that's even where it matters. It matters once he's out of it. What has he said? What has he promised?
Well, I mean, it's been a while since we've seen Trump run. You know how he runs on. He runs on 5 letters: trade.
Yeah, there was a tape leaked of Trump talking about Bernard after the election. He said, like, hey, he was almost as good as me on trade. I would have had a harder time running against him. It would definitely, if he gets the nomination, he's definitely going to get attacked on the immigration stuff. He said a lot of shit, like there's just so much stuff in the Green New Deal in this platform that's like, I'm going to make sure that we get plenty of goodies for whatever group.
It's red meat for blue checks.
Maybe regular people just won't care. It's possible. But even if that's true, if that's what you actually deliver, it's going to suck. It's going to be more of the same. And it's going to be even worse because all these people who bet the farm on him will either have to rebel against that, and then where are you going to go? What's left for you? Or you can just embrace that, well, I'm an upper middle class progressive socialist, so I guess this is my shit.
He's not going to be able. So, he if he really became evil Bernie, how much of that shit could he really get paid for? He couldn't do. There's maybe you could do 1 or 2 of these because basically the only way to be evil Bernie is to come up with taxes that tax your enemies and reward your friends. That's tough. Obamacare was a good one.
Yeah. Well, Warren had this in like her platform. She said, "Look, we're going to open up the borders, and we're going to have Medicare for everybody, and we're going to pay for it because the economy will grow from the immigration."
Yeah, but donors, they're not going to let you do that. You're going to have to be able to pay for it.
Not necessarily. Well, not necessarily.
Well, someone will still have to pay for it. I'm not saying you can't pay for it, but you have to. You have to pay for it. We can. There's a nice quote from Donald J. Trump. Bernie Sanders must really dislike Crooked Hillary after the way she played him. Many of his supporters, because of trade, will come to me.
He claimed that afterward. He said that he got a double-digit percentage of I don't know if that's true, but Trump said it. He thinks that anyway.
That wasn't the quote I was looking for, but let's see if I can find the one I was looking for. To all the Bernie voters who want to stop bad trade deals and global special interests, we welcome you with open arms. People first. Not America first. People first. I can't find the one I was looking for, but there was one where Sanders, where Trump said, and by the way, Trump, I think he got that from, who's the crazy guy who used to work for, Bannon? Bannon convinced him that trade is how you get elected. It's like his economy. It's the economy stupid. And I think he really believes it. And whenever he's really talking about getting elected, he always talks about it. And I can't find the quote, but he said Sanders. I know what you're talking about because he's tweeted almost the same thing. He said Sanders is almost as good as me on trade. And Trump thinks that's the most important thing in politics.
It's a perfect wedge. His strategy in 2016 was to win the Rust Belt with this stuff, and it doesn't. It's gonna be hard to chip away at that.
Yeah, there's a lot of hardcore right wingers I know that claim they're not going to vote for Trump.
Why is that?
Because he's not radical enough, or he's not delivering on he's not delivering.
Like people you know in real life, or people on Twitter?
Of course, people on Twitter.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I was down there at the Klan rally last week, just shooting the shit. Yeah,
you know that's an a thing that people don't want to admit. Another aspect, a lot of the people who were mad in 2016 and didn't want to vote for Hillary, some of those people they're happy with Trump and they're not going to switch to Bernard even if he runs a great campaign. Like there's some percentage of that. You know, you could say, well, the Rust Belt was so close that there's probably not going to be enough for them to guarantee that, but that's something you have to think about. Sanders maybe could have flipped North Carolina, right? You know, just not even thinking about the Rust Belt. He might have been able to flip North Carolina. It's not going to happen. Trump could. I've heard people say Trump has a shot at retaking Virginia. I don't really believe that, but
what do you think about? I've seen a couple of pieces the other day, and this is something we've heard a whole bunch, but it's never really materialized. But I've heard. Well, what do you think about this? People say that Trump could get a significant portion of black males.
The argument I know what you're talking about. The argument is not the significant portion, but he could peel off a couple percentage points.
Like 9% of black males would be big. Yeah, this will be all thin margin stuff.
It's funny because I would say no, it's not going to happen. But I mean, if you don't think that's possible, then you're really saying identity politics. You can't beat it. There's no such thing as universalist politics anymore. So I mean, I'm going to say maybe just because I want to believe that. But
yeah, there's a couple. I don't know specifically where they're going with that, but I remember there was that remember that meat packing plant, and that was a big story. I can't remember if it was in Louisiana or Chicago, but basically it was all black guys. They laid them off, and it was full of illegals. And I guess the Trump campaign made some hay out of it.
Yeah, if a Republican could win like a big percentage of black men, that, like I said, that would be proof that identity politics don't necessarily trump everything. I don't know if it's even possible.
The only reason why I was curious is because basically you hear good arguments for it, but it never. I don't want to say it doesn't materialize because it seems like each year the Republicans peel off like 1 or 2% more, and it's pretty much only the males.
I don't think that's true. I don't didn't their share. Well, Obama kind of.
Trump peeled off a few more than like Romney, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, but Trump wasn't running against Obama too.
Yeah,
it would be interesting. He's certainly trying to do it.
Yeah. I think
If you look at like Frog Twitter, they make fun of his attempts to do that constantly. And there's a stat that they point out, and it is pretty damning. It's that it shows like, okay, you ask people of every race, what do you consider yourself? And even guys who are, they say, I'm a very conservative person, if it's a black man, he still votes for the Democratic Party, even if he considers himself very conservative.
Yeah.
So they say this is proof that like this is identity thing. Now they would say that because they're identitarian too.
Well, if there was nothing behind it, I don't think people would have freaked the fuck out at the Kanye thing so much.
We've discussed this before, maybe not on the podcast, I don't remember, but like the Latino identity politics thing. So 2/3 of Latinos vote for the Democratic Party, but the Latinos kind of can move freely between I'm Hispanic and I'm white, and they do that. Like some people change. You ask them one generation, they say they're Hispanic, and you ask them the next one, say, "Oh, I'm just a white person." So is that?
That's kind of the dream, right?
Oh yeah, it is. But
Logo Daedalus has posted some good stuff on that. He's kind of got like a feel good thing about like I can't remember who it was, but there's one of these crazy authors, whatever, was talking about saying that like America is going to create a the full fruition of America will be there'll be like an American race, and Logo Daedalus said yeah, he said yeah, he's right, it's already happening. He says I could call myself Latino tomorrow, no one could really say anything. I dated a Cuban girl for a while, and she was white as snow. Yeah, I guess her great granddaddy's like Cortez or something. You know what I mean? But
yeah, we have a friend who's he's Cuban, and his grandparents came from Cuba, and he's
I'm POC to him. Yeah, he's a European. Yeah. Who knows where I crawl up?
Yeah, if we're measuring skulls, your Hibernian brow ridge is definitely going to exclude you.
Well, still bullish closing out. I think my final verdict. Of course, I like the Tulsi campaign message and shit better, but I don't know what she's doing, but it doesn't appear that she's trying to be president. I saw that she was on Red Scare. That's fucking dope.
I'd like to get her on Good Old Boys.
Hell yeah.
I'd like to get her on a Good Old Boy.
Yeah. I like her shit better. I think you have to give Bernie the benefit of the doubt right now because he's on. The proof is in the. I mean.
Yeah,
there's too many headhunters coming after him.
He's going to get I think he's going to get a plurality of the votes. I think he's going to now. I don't think that they're going to let him be the nominee. But you know what I do think? If he does, a lot of the people listening to us, enjoy the next like few months of being an outsider because your ass is going to be like Chris Matthews if Bernard Sanders become president. You'll be part of the ruling coalition.
You think so? Trump really hasn't enjoyed that kind of status.
What do you mean? What I'm talking about, like
if you were a diehard Trump guy, say media figure, you're probably not even welcome at CPAC right now.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So he could definitely become president, and Bernie bro could still be a slur.
Oh yeah. No. That's not what I mean.
You think that he's going to be warmly embraced by the party if he did win?
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if he wins, things that happen subsequently is going to make everybody every Bernard brother is going to have to examine their class position and what that means. And I think it's might necessarily be a pleasant experience for a lot of people.
I don't know.